This is the official League of Kyle's Rivals podcast, episode 4. And we're here. I'm your host, Mike. We're joined, as always, by Alex, joined by Lucho, and special guest, Thom PayPal Dongle Moose himself, Phil.
Yes.
So what's going on? We had a busy couple of days. So a lot to talk about trade-wise tonight. We're going to go over 2 more teams. These are, I believe, the last 2 non-playoff teams we covered. Then starting next week, we dig into those year 1 playoff rosters. We'll have some fan mail to discuss. Always exciting. But we want to kick things off with Fantasy Pro rankings are out.
Our
rankings, thanks to Fantasy Pros. So they're current as of today, was May 28th. We're recording this.
8:52 p.m.
Oh. So Alex, take it away. Give us, what do we want to do? Focus on one team?
Well, there's not much to say here. I mean, people can go make their own account, look at the stuff. But there was one particular team that we want to talk about that is in a new place in the standings. So I know, Skylar, if you're listening to this, you're thinking we're about to shit all over your team again like we do every episode. But that is not the case this time. Instead, I know, Joey, you're going to be pretty happy to hear this one. But in 12th place, last place in our league, Team Juicy Swag, now at the bottom of the power rankings, has dropped below Fantasy's most hated, my rivals are everybody, Kyle Coons. So I just wanted to throw that out there so everyone knows now that Anthony is officially the worst going into 2020.
Yay!
Hey, cheers to Anthony.
It was a long road. I'm so proud of him.
He's made. I mean, it keeps confirming my point of he's running his dynasty team like his Madden franchise. All those horizontal moves that haven't even moved the needle. The strategy changes by the hour. It's, I got to get picks and get my, oh shit, I traded this running back, I got to get a running back. It's just that nonstop. It doesn't work. You need it. It's not working. The pros think you stink, and it's gonna be a long 2020, dude.
What did they hate the most about his team? Just everything was low,
I honestly
they hated his name.
We can take a look. We can go into more. Oh, so they like his wide receivers. They're saying he's fourth in the league. This is all 2020, by the way, not Dynasty. I can switch to Dynasty, but he's also last in Dynasty, just so everyone knows. But for just 2020, he's 4th in the league in wide receiver, so that's his strong position. He's 6th at QB. Mixed up with Deshaun Watson.
Yep.
Then everything else is awful. Tight end, he's 10th. Running back, he's 11th, and for the flex, he's 11th.
Wow.
So
it's
flex.
Funny how
super flex and his normal flex.
To kind of defend him, it's funny how he's not ranked last in anything, but it's just still bad enough to put him at the bottom.
Well, so
you would think his quarterbacks and receivers would at least give him some kind of boost.
So it's funny that Kyle's ahead of him because Kyle is last in running back, quarterback, wide receiver. He's 11th at tight end, and then only his flex is 10th. But the fact that his like wide receiver 3 brings him up, and it's because he has Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow saves Kyle's team when they're going this for Super Bowl.
That's going to be the story of.
And it makes sense. That's why they like it better, just because he has Joe Burrow now and Anthony has Derek Carr. So.
And the reason I think we say this is because a certain someone, Tom, that has Kyle's 2021 first round pick is really hoping for Kyle to finish last.
He's furious. He's furious to hear this news.
This is going to be a season-long storyline to follow for. Listen, if anyone's watching this, that's not in our league, real compelling stuff to look forward to.
Who got that link? One of Lucho's buddies.
Yeah, I think Cedric saw me upload it and he was like, "Oh."
Cedric will learn everything about our league and then somehow get a spot in it in one of these upcoming years. Just dominate because of it.
Yeah, we're giving away too much. We got to dial it back.
Yeah, yes. One of us is going to get incepted into dropping out of the league, and Cedric will be there to pop in.
Oh man, but yeah, man. Sorry, Anthony. Your team isn't
You
last
suck.
in the rankings. Yeah,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
we knew that. It is what it is, though. He got well. I mean, speaking of Anthony, he was involved in a couple of trades that didn't involve him trading with Tom.
Oh,
So I guess let's go right into some trades. We had a busy, I say busy week, but it's been like a busy 3 days, 2 days.
yeah.
So
Yeah, ever since Monday the 25th was the first
Yeah.
trade that went through.
So we'll start with that because this was one of the big trades I wanted to get into. So Dennis trades Sterling Shepard to Kyle for two second round picks, one in 2021, one in 2022, of course. I really like the
And
trade for Dennis.
do not forget the $25.
Oh, excuse me.
bidding dollars.
Yes, 25. We've discussed how the bidding dollars can come in handy, so don't sleep on that. But what is he doing? What's
Kyle?
what's Kyle doing? What's the strategy? For me, I think giving up that price, it's overpaying for Sterling Shepard. But you do it if you're a contending team, maybe you've got injuries and you need somebody. So naturally, like you'll just overpay and like a mid-season trade. But to do that trade in May, where
Yep.
you don't know what the Giants' depth chart is, Shepard might turn into wide receiver 3 behind Tate and Slayton. Who the hell knows with that team,
He
especially
kind
with the
of
new
already
head coach.
is, I feel like.
Well, I mean, and target-wise, he's behind Barkley, and he's probably behind Ingram. So could
So
be
you're
the fifth.
So right, you're essentially if he does become like the 5th leading target guy, that's a steep price to pay for what might not be a lot of production.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with you that I don't really know what Kyle's doing either because he said it a million times. His plan is to suck for 3 or 4 years and then be awesome. But if
why?
you're trading away your own picks.
He
So, like,
accidentally.
And it's not like okay, I understood he paid a lot to get the number 2 pick this year to get CeeDee Lamb. Okay, fine. If you really like a guy, give him. But now he's trading picks 2 years from now. He's just about. I think all he has is a 4th left next year. I don't understand because the guys he's getting aren't doing anything. It's like, what is it going to? Am I make him 12th to 10th? I don't know. Maybe.
In his defense, if you're gonna trade picks a little more luxuriously, a little more recklessly, you might as well do it for next year because of the situation.
Oh,
I
the
still
implication?
don't agree. Yeah, because of the implication. I still don't agree. I agree with you, as we discussed before, that I don't think it's a prudent move, especially for Shepard. But I think a second next year, even if you get like half the NCAA season, and no training camp potentially, I think that's like worth a round lower maybe in the grand scheme of things.
Possible. It was supposed to be a
True.
strong draft class, so
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I don't know. I don't know. We've discussed it, not to get into the whole what's going to happen with the college season again, like we did last week.
yeah, they could all die on Carnival cruises, like Alex said.
Yeah. But it's just for me, it's like, I mean, just you have to play assuming like everything's going to be fine, even if it isn't. But I don't know. I think they're going to try. There's too much money involved to cancel, so they're gonna get something done. So I think any supplemental draft concerns, I feel like aren't that big a deal. But I'm also looking at it as if nothing's going on, as if everything is normal. It's just not. I just don't. It's more I don't get the strategy. I don't get it. Like,
I think for 2 second-round picks, he could have been looking at a way better receiver, somebody like maybe like Marquise Brown or Robert Woods for that cost. Sterling Shepard just seems like he overpaid.
The trade
agree.
expert has spoken.
I
The
listen.
trade
I
connoisseur.
agree.
I do think you've made the most trades out of everyone in the league.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Probably.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of, let's
go
discuss
to-
let's discuss Phil's wheeling and dealing this week.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
start with the first trade you made. It was
Which
with
one
it was,
that?
it was with Joey.
Okay.
So let's see. So Joey trades to Phil, Preston Williams and a 2021 second round pick, and you traded to Joey Ronald Jones, Mike Gesicki, and a 2021 4th round pick.
Yeah.
So clearly, the trade coming from Joey being that he had 0 tight ends, he's
And
taking a
needs running
shot.
back help.
Exactly, and the running back helps. So it's not I think it's a good swap for both because you get another receiver, Preston Williams, not bad from the Dolphins.
Weird. I thought Preston Williams was on my team this whole time.
Yeah, it's interesting. So far, the first two trades that we've mentioned almost relate directly to the previous episode of this podcast, where Dennis said he wasn't crazy about Sterling Shepard, trades him. Joey, you guys talked about his running back and tight end depth, and then approaches me with a deal almost immediately. Like I was watching the podcast as he started asking about Ronald Jones. So what do you guys think of the trade?
I like your side. Instant reaction. I like your side. Obviously, I spoke last time about how I like Preston Williams. I did try to get him from Joey, but wasn't willing to give up anything too crazy because as much as I do like him, he played well. It was an extremely small sample size, and he's an undrafted free agent. So there's that going against him. But I do like it. The second round pick also makes it even nicer. Another thing is obviously I'm not the biggest fan.
Oh, everyone stops.
Yes.
That's a weird looking horse.
Don't you talk about Joe Pesci like that?
But
That's what happened. It was covered up by my laptop because my laptop comes just a little bit above, like an inch above my monitors.
What
I was
the
like,
fuck are they looking at?
I thought you were saying something because like you forgot to hit record or something.
no.
But
But
okay, to keep going. I also obviously I mentioned this before. I'm not the biggest fan of Ronald Jones. That's why I traded him to you. I also think it's even better news because as of today, we're hearing that Tampa Bay is offering a deal to, or at least talking to Devonta Freeman. So now we know, okay, they drafted Keyshawn Vaughn and they're still looking at another running back. That's not good news for Ronald Jones or Keyshawn Vaughn.
I will say I've read conflicting reports on
Have you?
the Devonta Freeman thing.
Well,
But
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if they're like.
It was probably
talking to
only
him
like
anyway.
it was probably only like a $7 million offer. And
Yeah.
because it didn't happen. He's waiting for his $20 million offer.
Yeah.
But
He said,
and then also
he said he was willing to sit out 2020, skip 2020, which is like, yeah, so is everybody else.
I was gonna say all as well, like, oh, you're willing to sit out 2020, so your career's done.
Oh yeah,
Right.
If he
A running,
skips this year,
a
it's over.
27-year-old running back with injury concerns
Yeah.
skipping an entire season is not good news. But back to the trade, Mike Gesicki, yeah, that's a tough trade to make, but at the same time, you got Preston Williams. So and I'm in the round 4, whatever. It's round 4.
Yeah, the round
I
fours
like
are
this one.
like a throwaway. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's just I think it's a trade Joey had to make for this year because now
I agree.
because we literally discussed he's like he had McCaffrey and no other running back, so at least there's some legit option. The same with tight end, nobody. I think the blanking on the Rams rookie.
Well, Mike Gesicki is a good tight end for his team, especially if he's not expecting much this year.
Right, but again, it's somebody, and I mean, I
And
think,
Ronald Jones,
and,
too.
right, and again, I think to give up a second, it's not steep. Joey's got a lot of picks, so he had the draft capital to kind of give away a second. You know, so for a team like his, it was even trade both sides.
And for me, my stance on tight ends is tight ends are like eyes. You only need 2.
Until you need more.
28
Because
roster spots.
Because you need
You never know.
glasses.
We don't slander spiders on this.
What's also
podcast.
interesting is more and more teams are getting a second legit tight end on their team. So it makes me just wonder if more tight ends are going to, like, we are already seeing more tight ends become valuable in fantasy as opposed to a couple of years ago when tight end was a wasteland. So I'm just wondering if now we're going to get to the point where, there's 25, 30 tight ends that are all fine.
I just think the tight end spot is still like you have like your elite maybe 4 or 5 guys you have that you can rely on, and for me I just think like the rest is kind of like you're just hoping one hits. Like I still don't think there's a lot of consistency.
I don't agree with that anymore. I think
I just think it's tough because it depends on teams. Like look, like we've said, Minnesota with Rudolph and Irv Smith, like who's going to break out of those two? But both of those guys are worth rostering and in a pretty decent spot for your tight ends, I believe. But I also just think there's so many guys where it can be so unpredictable. Like that's why I think like you have like your top 5, like Kittle and Kelsey and still Zach Ertz maybe, and then oh man, now I'm like blanking on the rest.
Well, see, that's
what
what I mean. I think there's a lot of these second tier guys now. Like if I'm just went to the Fantasy Pros rankings for 2020. Hold on, I went to week 1 rankings for whatever reason. defaulted to. But you have in tier 1 Kelsey, Kittle, Ertz, Andrews. Tier 2 Waller, Henry, Engram, Higbee. And then we're still not even talking about Austin Hooper, which is in tier 3.
I was going to say, I would think maybe on fringe tier 2, you'd probably add Hooper. They mentioned Waller was on tier 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Hooper, then in tier 3, it's Hooper, Jared Cook, Noah Fant, Mike Gesicki, Hawkinson.
See, like I don't like their
Ebron.
rankings. So I would put Jared Cook up higher.
Well, that's what I mean.
Being...
I think there's a lot of what this is basically saying. My point. I think there's a lot of these second tier tight ends that are good starters now, and I didn't even mention guys like Jack Doyle, who now is Phillip Rivers, and Dallas Goedert, who was great even with Ertz there, and like I said, Gronk is ranked 14th
because Dallas Goedert can run a route.
Hayden Hurst, the new starter,
just catches the ball and falls.
Well, Hayden Hurst has the biggest bump just because now he's a starter.
Yeah, but he's ranked 15th.
That's insane.
That's what I
mean. He was a starter even as a back. You could have started him even as he was the backup to Mark Andrews because he still was pretty productive.
But like I said, that's how it is. That's how the tight end landscape is turning into. There's more.
Right, but and to be fair, like someone like Gesicki, I think they had high hopes for him. He was drafted. Was he drafted 2 years ago now? So is this year 3 for him?
Year 3, I think.
Yeah.
So. And again,
that's exactly what the tight end development path is, really.
Yep, 3 to 4 years almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Listen, good trade for both sides. I mean,
sorry, Mike, to cut you off again. The point I was kind of making is we spoke about this a little bit, not on the show, but I spoke about this personally, where we might need to do something to make tight ends more valuable in our league.
I mean, I'm going to be for it just because of I like my group a lot, but
yeah.
But it's just one of those. But it's one of those where I mean, how valuable can we make? Like we've discussed, but it's like you're gonna throw 1.5 PPR for tight ends.
I don't know. I was thinking I was actually the past couple of days I've been thinking about it too. Maybe we should throw out something like a vote to everybody saying, hey, would you want do a tight end premium, and then if someone says yes, and this would giving no time frame, just in general, would you want to do a tight end premium, yes or no? If we get a yes, then we can figure out time frame, we can figure out points. I'd almost be down to start it. I mean, I'd be down to start immediately because I'm always okay with it. So I know other people probably want to wait a year, but
probably so you can make your moves. And
I'd almost think I'd want to throw out a low amount, maybe 1.2 or 1.25 PPR.
Yeah.
Just to start off, and then see how it feels, Yeah.
Do I hear point per first down?
And honestly, I've come around to point per first down, Luke. So point per first down.
We're back.
Well, some freezing and technical issues. So I don't even remember what I was talking about. So
the tight end premium.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. I just want to throw that idea out there. Maybe hear some reaction from people. They have any.
We'll post it. We'll figure it out.
We'll post it, but I want to hear some reaction before I even post it.
Figure it
out. Yeah, for sure. So we'll keep going with the trades. I mean, I think the main one. Oh no, you want to? I'll come to it later. So another one of Phil's trades. You traded with Tom. This was one. Yep. This is the one. This was discussed and partially negotiated on our PlayStation party chat. So Phil trades Matt Ryan and Marvin Jones to Tom for Allen Robinson and a 2021 third-round pick.
Kyle's 2021 third-round pick.
Oh, okay. So
makes it
probably a high.
Probably going to be higher.
Yep.
I waffled back and forth when I saw this trade come up. At first, I was like, "Wow, that's a bad trade." Then I was like, "Wow, that's a good trade."
I think it's fair.
Yeah,
I think it's fine. I think you're okay. For me, I think Tom behind Lamar Jackson, he didn't have a lot going on, so he gets somebody, especially for. And this is I said before, okay, what was Kyle doing? He's trading for these players. He's not competing. This is a team like Tom. If you want to consider Allen Robinson an overpay for the two guys he got, which I don't, but I'm saying if that's one way you wanted to look at it, this is still Tom who's looking to contend. He boosts his quarterback room for sure because now Lamar Jackson and Matt Ryan is a super flex, huge upgrade from what he had on his team, which I think honestly nobody. I don't know who he had.
Mitch Trubisky.
Okay, yes, instant upgrade, big instant upgrade. So he has a legit super flex every week now because Matt Ryan's still a damn good fantasy quarterback. And Marvin Jones to replace Allen Robinson, I think, is really good. Even it's just that Marvin Robinson or Jesus,
Marvin Robinson. Who's that?
Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones. I guess he just turned 30. Detroit drafted a receiver, so maybe
He
could
did
be
get
slipping
hurt at the
down.
end of last year.
Yeah.
Right. So, but listen, I think for me, I think Matt Ryan for Allen Robinson straight up is a fair deal. So it kind of equals out Marvin Jones for a third. I think everything's even for me.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So, Luch, wait, you were saying that at like first reaction, you thought it was a bad trade. Why?
Immediately when I saw it, I thought Phil got a steal because I value Allen Robinson really highly personally.
Yeah, I also like Allen Robinson a lot.
But then I thought about it, and I was like, between the makeup of his team, like you said, and the fact that Matt Ryan is probably like a top 8 at worst
yeah, somewhere
weekly
around
starter. And Marvin Jones, he is 30, but did they even draft? They drafted Quintez Cephas, or did they just sign him?
They drafted him. It was
They drafted him.
I think.
Yeah.
It was late, but I forgot.
Oh, my food is here.
It's like super. They have super concentrated targets in Detroit anyway, and like most of the targets have almost always gone to Galladay and Jones when they've been the duo there. So I think it's pretty even, and it makes sense because, who the fuck? What other team is this? Kyle.
What?
Is it Kyle's team? I forgot.
That made the trade with Phil?
Yeah.
Tom's.
Tom, whatever. Jesus. Tom also has Godwin and Devontae Adams, and I forget who else he has. One other good
Tyler
wide
Boyd.
receiver. Boyd.
Yep.
Who he also got from you.
And then he drafted a bunch of wide receivers this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he had like made that huge trade with Kyle and got all those picks. So
that was a very good trade for both sides.
Yeah, I think I had the conversation with Sape. I traded my QB2 to get his wide receiver 3, who becomes my wide receiver 1. I think when you guys go over my team, I think you'll see it that way too.
And then he got Marvin Jones back, which is his wide receiver 4, which I was talking, I think I've talked about you, Phil, with this as well, but I talked about with Tom that I like, and you used to have this combo with Tyler Boyd and Marvin Jones, but Tyler Boyd and Marvin Jones is the perfect combo of types of wide receivers, just the way they play. Tyler Boyd is your safe PPR guy, and Marvin Jones is your big play threat. So the fact that you have Marvin Jones as a wide receiver 4, that's the kind of like team makeup that I like, is to have a big play guy like that, which is something that my team has been missing. But that's why Jalen Reagor hopefully changes that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, yeah, fair trade. I mean, looking at how you will. But it's all, good trade. I mean, it helps both teams. I remember, you said your receivers sucked, so instant upgrade.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So I want maybe an underrated move. Tom traded with Anthony. He got Devonta Freeman for a 4th round pick.
Yeah, steal for Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Agree, because he's if he signs and does something, I get trading him away because he's still a free agent, and if he does if he does threaten to sit the season out, then fine. But
Joey's been saying that as soon as Devonta Freeman signed somewhere, Anthony could have got a second. No, he's just saying that if Anthony waited, he could have got him for a second.
True.
Or could have got a second for him, which I don't agree with. I don't
know about a second.
But a third for sure. For sure, you're getting a third.
I think because a 4th is like you're just trying
to throw away. Yeah.
Right. Agreed. I feel like we've gone over the percentages, but what percentage of 4th round rookie draft picks are actually fantasy relevant?
Although Anthony did upgrade that running back spot. Right. A second before that trade went through. Sorry.
Right. Another trade.
22 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, right. Well, how much can we talk about Devonta Freeman? He's still a free agent, so if he remains a free agent,
more just Joey wants to say, "What the fuck are you doing, Anthony?"
And then yes, the trade that he made with you, Alex, literally at the same time was you traded Latavius Murray and a 2022 4th and a 2021 3rd. And you got a 2nd round pick, which could be the 13th or 14th pick overall this year. Yep. So listen, no, I mean, look, if Kamara gets hurt or if Sean Payton still uses Murray, like Murray could still be a starter for him. I think a spot starter, unless again Kamara gets hurt or struggles or whatever. But to get the 14th, potentially 12th pick, 13th, I'll say, in the draft, it's a fucking steal for Latavius Murray. Like, I don't care what way you want to look at it. I think it just comes to like, what's Anthony doing? Like, I know he might need another running back, but you can't convince me that Murray is more valuable than.
He came to me for Murray. So when we were at Rick's house the other day, for a while he's been talking about needing a running back, and I mentioned to him that I have David Johnson on the trade block if you want to do that. And then when we were at Rick's, he brought up David Johnson, then also mentioned Latavius Murray, and I was like, oh, you can get Latavius Murray for not much. Just let's get a deal done. So this is what happened.
I wouldn't have traded a second. Like, I know there are other picks involved, but they're still not worth, and considering, I know you can't compare the draft classes, but considering at that exact spot, you might have a pick, you got Jalen Reagor.
Yeah.
Not to compare, but I
actually think,
put it in those shoes.
Honestly, I don't think this trade is lopsided. I think it's pretty close. It just made sense for I don't think it really makes sense for Anthony's team. In a vacuum, I think it's pretty close. It just made sense for my team. I got rid of a guy I'm probably never going to have in my.
Right. But that's what I mean. In a vacuum, it's not the worst trade. But for Anthony, who again, I've said it a bunch of times. I've said it a bunch of times for him and Kyle. All these moves you're making they're not moving the needle. They're not moving your team into a playoff spot. Why give up? For him, it's a valuable pick. It's you might get a guy with first round talent, especially in our super flex. I think I don't know if that gets said enough. You in a regular league, the second round pick might not maybe is less valuable. But in a super flex where quarterbacks are going first round, all these great players trickle down into the later picks. So to give up the 13th or 14th pick, at least projection wise, I don't like it for Latavius Murray.
Yeah, like in a regular league, me and Lucho, we just got Andy Isabella in mid-second, which is nothing,
Exactly, but it's just.
But in our league, and it was a strong draft class this year as opposed to the prior year. But
yeah, but still, like you just never know. That's why, if you're a bad team, my philosophy is always just keep your picks and just ride it out and see what happens.
And even specifically for our league, you think of a team like Kyle's or Anthony's, they should be getting those quarterbacks as a team like maybe like Tom's. His quarterbacks are aging with Matt Ryan. How many more years is he going to be using Ryan as his viable QB2? But now
5. I can answer that question. 5 to 6.
Yeah.
At least.
That's I don't know. Again, if I can't control what they do. It is what it is. But that's such a valuable pick. It's a valuable pick to give up for whatever. Even if Kamara gets hurt preseason out for the year, I still don't. And Murray, even if Murray's productive, it doesn't make sense to me. Like Anthony's trying to fill holes that don't need to be filled.
Well, we said that. Okay. What's
last?
I'll touch on a couple more trades.
There's just one more I want to talk about.
I was gonna say we don't the random you're trading your drops for blind bidding dollars, whatever. I traded to Kyle. I traded James Washington to Kyle for Tom's 3rd round pick, so it might be a late 3rd, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't like James Washington, so that's fine with me.
That's how I feel. I think James Washington is, with Juju there, he's probably going to turn into wide receiver 4 because I think they love Claypool.
I don't see it in year 1 for a rookie, especially a rookie who was basically a tight end in college.
True, but I even said for someone like James Washington, even when he was wide receiver 2 while Juju was hurt last year, and granted he had Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges throwing the ball.
Well, he ended up not being wide receiver 2. He was supposed to be, but
I think even at times where he would at least get targets, the production wasn't even there when he had his chances. So for me, it was just what can I get for this guy? Because I don't have a ton of I feel like I either have the top guys or like low level cut guys. So I was like, well, who do I have in my roster that maybe I can trade for some form of asset? And that was my thought process.
The reason why I wanted to bring this up is I just wanted, honestly, Lucho, what do you think of James Washington? Because you traded me Deontay Johnson, so that's really why I wanted to ask you.
I'm a little higher than you guys on James Washington, only because he has the production and the athleticism behind it. and he got hurt year 1, I believe. And he got hurt on and off last year, and he was also playing with two basically Tweedledee and Tweedledum-ass at quarterback. But I'm also lower on Deontay Johnson than pretty much everybody is.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's good, but I don't see him really becoming more than like a team's wide receiver too, like a complimentary thing. Oh shit! He's here.
Oh man, it's like
he got Deontay Johnson here.
Surprise guest.
Was that Deontay Johnson?
It was. He delivered me a sandwich, so now he just jumped up my ranks.
Yeah, he's got good hands. He's reliable. That's that's my opinion on that. And that trade, I think it's an even trade. You're getting a slim chance at James Washington becoming anything useful versus the 10% to 9% chance that a third-round pick becomes anything.
Pretty much.
Yep.
And now I only have to figure out 3 guys to cut in August, so there's that.
The Phil strategy.
Justice Hill on the trade block, guys.
All right, whatever. You want me to read off this sweet fan mail we got? Actually,
we're done with trades, but it was a busy week, man.
Yeah, right. Even Lucho commented, "What is this, trade day?"
I'm tired already from trades.
But yeah, I'm excited for fan mail.
Let's hear I've been saying fan mail this time, but it's actually the official League of Kyle's rival show, Hate Mail.
Oh man.
Oh no.
Dear official League of Kyle's rival show, aka Year 1 playoff circle jerk.
All right, he's not wrong.
Former number 1 fan here, current number Google fan here. Although this podcast has officially become my least favorite podcast, I'm a loyal least favorite fan and will continue to listen while continuously throwing tomatoes at my laptop. Episode 3 review. Stellar guest, host fails to reel in the jests. 6.8 out of 10. I also want to take this opportunity to regretfully decline your invitation to appear on episode 4. Nick's mom asked me to babysit that night. Sincerely, the Wrecknicking.
It's funny because Nick's never going to hear any of this.
Yeah.
Nope, he won't. So continue to keep sending those and we'll know. So.
Hi, Dan.
Yeah, hi, Dan. All right, on to the...
Who's Dan?
Good point.
If they're not on the screen, they're not for me. I don't know them. I have object permanence problems.
Shall we get... I guess let's get into these rosters.
Yeah.
All right. So
the main event.
Mr. Flup.
This is probably the quickest that we've actually gotten into breaking down these teams.
Well, it's because Phil's over here doing sign language.
He's leaving.
So...
Does he know we're going to talk about his team now?
Probably not. All right, let's just...
Yeah. So, team...
Yeah, Phil, we just finished talking about your team. We're moving on to
okay, cool.
Sayonara.
So, all right. Team Thom PayPal Dongle Moose.
Yes.
So, finished, 7th last year? I'm like forgetting everything. 7th place finish, just shy of the playoffs, but moving in a pretty good direction. So let's start with the quarterbacks. Teddy Bridgewater, Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott, and Alex Smith. So 3 quarterbacks, 3 starters now that Bridgewater's on Carolina.
Love keeping the faith in Bridgewater.
And well, listen, I mean, to hold them, Bridgewater's, if you wanted to flip him, he's probably he's definitely worth the first.
Oh,
because just for being a starting quarterback. I mean, I don't. Even if he's okay, I mean, if he, I think that's the biggest question. I mean, you have Dak, who's your QB1, and then you just need to figure out your super flex. So it's like, which Bridgewater you're getting? Are you getting check down Teddy? Is that a super flex worthy starter if he's like that? Or do you go Kirk Cousins? But what's the outlook on Teddy Bridgewater after this year? I imagine he's going to start all year. I mean, will someone like Will Grier threaten, or even PJ Walker threaten the starting Teddy Bridgewater starting job? XFL great PJ Walker.
Well, we don't know. He might go back to the new XFL that Vince is going to start again.
Listen, I'm in. I'll go to those games again, man.
The triple XFL.
Mhm.
This
But,
is the whole reason he did it 3 times.
But what's Bridgewater's outlook?
Like, so I have a question for you.
Okay.
If Teddy Bridgewater is worth a first, what is Tyrod Taylor worth?
I think because he's older and you have that early first round pick, maybe a second.
Racist.
Okay.
Oh my God. Okay. Maybe. I mean, for Ty, it's the same argument as look at some of the trades for quarterbacks last year. I'm not counting Ryan Finley for a second. That's ridiculous. I think DJ fucked up and hit accept by accident and just okay, this happened. But I think for
it wasn't by accident. He actually asked me to sell it to him, and then he bought it.
Like in the end of the Wolf of Wall Street.
I mean, if we're comparing those two guys, Bridgewater's obvious starting outlook looks better than Tyrod Taylor because Tyrod Taylor is going to be week by week, whereas I think unless Carolina's god awful this year, do you see Carolina taking a quarterback in next year's draft if somebody's there for them? If they're awful,
if they're that bad, yes.
Okay,
their
so
defense
if they're
is not looking like it's going to be good, so
no,
they
but if
are going to be close to being that bad, but they need to be in a spot where they're taking Lawrence or Fields, or if it ends up being Joe Burrow and Trey Lance. But
if the Panthers are 5-11, 6-10, and they're not getting that top, they don't have a shot at that top quarterback, then I think that's what you're rooting for, because then Bridgewater continues next year. What's his contract? Was it 2 years?
2 years.
3 years.
Oh, it's 3.
It's 3.
Oh, I'm thinking of the Saints.
But he can be cut,
Of course, there's always those little loopholes, but I think that's what it is for Bridgewater, and so that's my biggest question mark. I think Bridgewater is worth a first this year if you're desperate, but there's always that question with a lot of quarterbacks going forward.
So Bridgewater can be cut after this year with a $20 million dead cap hit, and they'd only be saving $3 million, so it won't happen after this year.
Yeah, so he's
but
so
the
he's
following
there too.
year it would only be a $5 million dead cap hit, and they'll be saving $21 million that way.
So. They would take that, especially if they're bad and they go into a rebuild after this year.
Yeah.
But also, you have a Matt Rule offense now. No more Ron Rivera. So what is this Carolina? And listen, ton of weapons.
What is Matt Rule Rutgers guy? Did he go to
Fucking
Rutgers or did he go to Temple? It was fucking Temple. I got it wrong.
Yeah. I don't.
I knew it was somewhere around that Philly jersey.
Are you telling me that Greg Schiano isn't the all-time coach at Rutgers? Does he not still coach there?
He's back. But so you look at this Carolina offense with DJ Moore, obviously Christian McCaffrey, no more Greg Olsen. But Ian Thomas is there as their tight end, so who knows what you get? Promising. But you added Robbie Anderson. Did they add Ted Ginn? Did he go there?
No,
he's still a free agent. They still have Curtis Samuel though.
They added Robbie Anderson, right, to be the Ted Ginn element.
That's true. All right, I would agree. So you have decent guys, and DJ Moore, big step last year.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like so far away a wide receiver one.
He's sniffing at top 12, and CMC obviously is already one of the best pass catchers in the league,
right? Even
as a running back,
right? And I think it's gonna be. I think McCaffrey's he's probably gonna catch 100 balls again this year, just based on how it's gonna be a lot of quick.
One little thing that bothers me with CMC, and it's really nitpicking, but because Norv Turner / Scott Turner aren't there anymore, I don't know if they're really going to rely on them as heavy. They'll probably throw in probably throw in Reggie Bonifant / Mike Davis / whoever else they have.
True.
And
they signed Mike Davis.
Well, that was from last year when Chicago traded him at the last second.
Oh, right.
Or something for the last second. I don't remember. It was some weird thing that Chicago, it benefited them to get rid of him at that specific time.
Yeah, but listen, for the quarter, I mean,
I love DJ Moore.
We're getting too far, as far as just talking about the Panthers. But so for this roster, is Teddy Bridge Phil? Who you're clearly starting Dak as your quarterback one, unless there's some fucking holdout or something with him.
Yeah.
But who's your week one super flex? Is it Cousins or is it Bridgewater?
Going into week one, it's probably Cousins, just because he finished as QB 13 on the year last year. Just going with what I'm expecting, and although the offensive coordinators changed, Sape can tell you the new offensive coordinator is the same guy who's kind of secretly calling plays from the shadows before, right?
I don't remember now if why am I blanking on the guy's name? Luch, you know him. Kubiak. I don't really know if Kubiak officially took it or if like his son took it or something, but whatever it was, it's more power to Kubiak in the game planning, which he already was doing a lot. So the system is the same.
Yeah. So if the system continues with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen still there and Irv Smith kind of emerging, it's not a ton of weapons, but I can't see Cousins dropping so far because of Diggs leaving. But it could happen. There could be a huge decrease in his production. I know they're always a run-heavy offense, so it's a risk. But going into week one, definitely going to start Cousins.
Okay.
I think it would be more of a risk if it wasn't a super flex. Like if you were starting him in a 1 QB league, it'd be a lot. You'd be a lot. Shakier,
but that's why we're not like that. That's the beauty of super flex. You don't have Matt Ryan for Allen Robinson in a normal league. It doesn't, like shit like that doesn't happen. So that's
what you don't.
The fact that in a one quarterback league you realize you can just stream quarterbacks, or that's why my strategy forever has been, well, if I don't get the top guy, I'll wait till round 12 in a redraft. But that's beside the point. So the quarterbacks, I mean, compared to some of the other teams that we've talked about, this is pretty good. If you have the Fantasy Pro rankings up, what do they rank Phil's quarterbacks if you have that?
Phil's quarterbacks have to be like top 3. I would like to say that after all these moves, Phil is now 3rd on the rankings for 2020 and 4th on the Dynasty rankings. So, Phil, they have your quarterbacks. Yeah, 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Right. I mean, I think like Dak obviously boosts it way up.
They dropped down. They might have even been higher, but they dropped down probably without Matt Ryan because Matt Ryan would have been your 2nd ranked one.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
That proves that you didn't need him.
Right. All right, so solid quarterbacks. So we'll move on to your running backs. So in order, you have Cam Akers, Tevin Coleman, James Conner, Kenyon Drake, Rashad Penny, DeAndre Swift, and that's it, DeAndre Swift.
Yeah.
So pretty good. I mean, listen, and we discussed on our draft episode 1, you shaking up the draft helped a lot of players after you by taking Akers and Swift at 6 and 7. Because at least my thought process the whole time of, all right, well, he'll probably take, one running back and then Jerry Jeudy or whatever, wide receiver might be there. Mm-hmm. So honestly, you helped me because I spent a week trying to trade up to get a quarterback. And then honestly, would have worked out anyway, but you taking the running backs, leaving the receiver there for Nick helped me. So thanks.
You also helped me because Nick said that he was planning on taking Dobbins if Jeudy wasn't there. So I got Dobbins out of it, which is who I wanted because I had him ranked above Swift and Akers.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So thanks, Bill.
So before even asking about the running backs, I guess since you're here, so why take the 2 running backs instead of Jerry Jeudy with your receivers as pretty? If you were pretty low on your own receivers, so why pass on someone like Jerry Jeudy for the running backs you took?
It was definitely kind of like a go with the gut kind of decision. Just kind of like hearing kind of the rhetoric, take the best players and then figure out what to do with them afterwards. Best player available. And with like a lot of Dynasty Superflex rankings, you see it's the 2 or 3 quarterbacks, then all the running backs, then the wide receivers. So I looked at a bunch of different rankings and I kept seeing that trend. I was reading that advice and I was like, I almost made the playoffs this year. Running back is definitely a position that I am also struggling at. If I take them both and want to shop one of them, I'll do that. So I took what at the time was what I believed were the 2 best players available, and then waited to hear the backlash.
Hey, listen, no backlash from me. It like I said, it dropped guys into the right spots. So for at least for clearly me and Alex, and that was the most. I think that was the most professional question ever asked on this podcast.
For sure.
So,
I was about to say, when I was sitting here listening, I'm like, wow, this sounds like a real interview right now.
Yeah.
Phil, you're also good at answering in the interview sense. You
Yeah.
gotta do a little more talk about. Well, the boys were thinking that I.
Yeah, well, I had the devil on one shoulder and I had the angel on the other, and they would, the pitchfork hurt, so I listened to them.
But,
I actually,
all right.
just to get my 2 cents in, I think I told you at the time, Phil, that I actually like this. I was just shocked that you didn't take Jerry Jeudy because we were talking for like at least 6 months that you were wanted Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, I really just liked his name. So.
But so I was a little shocked you didn't take him, but I like the taking of the running backs ahead of the wide receivers. Again, your team looked like it needed wide receiver, but you've made moves to supplement that. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
for
was
sure.
one of those things where I've got a lot of picks, especially into the second round, with this being like a strong draft class. I used the rest of my picks, I think, to get wide receivers, and have made moves to get wide receivers. Obviously, there still is some like praying and hoping that some of these wide R3s and 4s hit and turn into wide R2s. But I still have my first round. No, not my first round, but a first round for next year, 3 seconds for next year, my first round for the year afterwards. If I want to start making moves to start acquiring like better wide receivers, I feel like I didn't give up too much to get there. And like I said, Akers and Swift, maybe not on the trading block right now, but could be.
Luch, any thoughts?
No thoughts. Head empty.
But
All right.
So you're running back. So I'll start with that you struck absolute gold with Kenyon Drake, because if Kenyon Drake doesn't break out for the Cardinals and kind of cement himself as running back 1 in Arizona, it's looking rough, honestly, because but I mean, Drake's clearly RB1, because really, how much can you trust James Conner at this point?
Another guy Anthony let slip away, Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't blame him at the time. That's the one I'm not going to blame him for. It's just funny that another guy Anthony like pissed away. Can we? Not this episode, but one of these times I need to discuss. What would Anthony's team be had he kept all certain players? But that's for another day. So with him, I mean, who's your running back 2 going into the season? Because who do you trust the most to start alongside of Drake at this point?
So week 1 starter, probably gonna kind of go with that same thought that I have with Cousins. Probably go with James Conner if he's healthy. If there is a preseason and I get to watch the preseason, that's really going to be where I kind of choose between him and I think maybe Akers would be kind of the one most potentially to slip into RB2.
Yeah, I mean,
for week 1.
Well, I mean, Akers is I think an absolute flex candidate going into week 1, just because I mean, if you drafted Cam Akers, how much faith do you have in Brown and Henderson?
Yeah.
So I mean, because I mean, Swift could probably. I think Swift turns into taking the workload away from Kerryon Johnson, but year 1, I don't know if it's consistent, but definitely going forward, because that was surprising that Detroit took him.
Yeah, but it's like the curse of Detroit running backs. Like, will anybody ever take the workload there?
I know, man. Matt Patricia doesn't exactly give me confidence in, will it just be a committee, or is there going to be one guy, and is it him? Is it Swift?
Don't ever bet on Matt Patricia doing the intelligent thing.
I said that when he was in New England. How many he's a defensive coordinator, but his teams were giving up. I feel like he leaves and the defense improves. That says it all.
Yep.
You can bet on him carrying his axe around.
Or his pencil for his laminated play sheet.
No, you're right. It is the pencil, yes.
But I mean, there's definitely question marks with the running backs. But you could, again, if Drake continues his form from the second half of last year, then he's easily in the top 10, easily top 10 or higher overall if that form continues. And I mean, will it? I don't know. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
but I mean, he really.
I agree
I mean,
that there's question marks, by the way. Just it's not long-term question marks.
No, it's 2020 question marks, especially if you are looking to contend. Then
It's very similar to Lucho's team where he had Joe Mixon as his running back 1, but then had this mixture of Miles Sanders, Devin Singletary, guys like that, who all of them didn't hit early on in the year, but then look what happened midway through the season and they carried their team.
And this is a good example. Like if Akers is struggling fantasy wise the first half of the year, who the hell knows? If it's one of those, all right, fuck it, set him free, and then he just takes off. But there's, and again, if Connor has the ability to take off. All right, we lost Phil for a sec.
Bye.
All right, he's coming back.
Unless you want to use foil. What did I miss?
Not much.
Everything. We're done.
Yeah, we're
completely. Podcast is over.
My podcast.
But yeah, I think like to have, and Coleman's a question mark. Just you can say that about all San Francisco running backs with Kyle. Anytime any team Kyle Shanahan's ever on, you're going to have this problem going forward. But yeah, I think Drake. I think again the upside is James Conner bounces back and Cam Akers breaks out, so you have 3 solid running backs. And then of course I've said about the other teams, the downside is Conner stays hurt. Tevin Coleman is just in a committee, lost in it. And then, Cam Akers is struggling because Sean McVay is using 3 guys. And then, same with Swift. So, and then Rashad Penny is, how good is, are we still relying on him, especially with Dallas there now?
He's most likely going to open the season on PUP. So you can't really.
So exactly. And and that's been the trouble his whole career. But, and then what else? And then then that rounds out the running back. So again, it's another not high risk. It's another just big upside, big downside. Yeah. Because again, and then same thing with Drake. Like, what if that was like a 8-game wonder, and then he goes back to his Miami inconsistency days.
Especially because it was a contract year, so you see that.
Right.
I guess not as much in football as you do in other sports, but you do see guys perform better in the contract.
Or because now if Arizona with DeAndre Hopkins, maybe they just run less. Kyler Murray in year 2 takes a step up, so now they become a pass first option. Does Drake get a ton of work? There's still Chase Edmonds there. Benjamin might get worked in. There's question marks, but again, big upside, but big downside. Mm-hmm. And but again, like you said, you have a ton of draft capital, so you could make moves if you are contending. So like honestly one of the underrated roster constructions for me, just with the moves you've made. We've said you've made the most trades, so I think there's probably moves to be made mid-season if you're contending. So
let's move to the wide receivers.
Yeah. All right. So we'll go on to wide receivers. But what are his? We might as well ask now. You have the rankings up. What are his running backs ranked on Fantasy Pros? If you've got it in front of you.
I would honestly guess top 4.
It's tough. I'd say like 6, just because it's questionable.
They're 8th.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, they're down there. Wow.
Now you have to take into account Fantasy Pros ranks all this only based on a starting roster. It doesn't take into account depth as much. Right. So, because looking at how you can build.
Yeah, but I mean, but you can. I mean, I get it. You can only start so many.
This is all with the idea that there'll be no injuries the whole season.
Of course. Well, we know how that goes.
Yep.
All right. So moving on to wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the big trade boosted it big time, but
long list.
So you've got Brandon Ayuk, Chase Claypool, Michael Gallup, Kelvin Harmon, N'Keal Harry, Isaiah Hodgkins.
It wouldn't be this podcast if Mike didn't mispronounce one player.
It's always N'Keal. You've said N'Keal Harry before too. It's N'Keal Harry.
Oh shit!
Wasn't that a show on Nickelodeon? Keneal and Kel.
Every time, damn! I almost made it. I was getting close. All right, Isaiah Hodgins.
I actually
Alshon Jeffrey.
I actually think you mispronounced Gesicki before too.
Oh, did I? What'd I say?
I don't remember now, but we'll have to check the tape.
God damn it. All right.
Send
Yeah,
it to New York.
Alshon Jeffrey, Anthony Miller, Riley Ridley, who I think's been traded like 6 times, Allen Robinson, John Ross, Debo Samuel, Kenny Stills, Quan Treadwell, and Preston Williams. So right off the bat, like you said earlier, Allen Robinson, wide receiver 1, like that's of course a no brainer. Debo Samuel, probably maybe 2 at this point.
Yeah,
Possibly
last
could
year.
fight for 1, depending on the quarterback play in
Yes, sir.
Chicago.
Exactly, yeah. And then, I mean, wide receiver 3, do you go
Gallup.
with? Are you
Yeah.
sure yet?
Mhm.
Him or Preston Williams are probably 3-4.
Yeah.
I'd probably say Gallup too, to be honest.
It's really close between the
It's
two.
just tough. Week 1, you can say it, but if CeeDee Lamb breaks
Also,
out,
honestly, if Alshon Jeffrey is healthy and still on that team, he still could be a wide receiver 3. It's just that's another big if.
then, right.
Yeah.
So and then you look at certain guys like Kenny Stills is whatever. Treadwell is, is he a running back? Is he a returner? What is he at this point?
Stills, he's suddenly got opportunity, and he's arguably the only wide receiver on that team that has shown an ability to stay healthy through an entire season.
Right, because Will Fuller can't,
Brandon Cooks can't,
and right, oh yeah, and
David Johnson maybe if he's
Kiki
not washed
Kuti
up.
can't.
Kiki Kuti is not good.
exactly.
Oh no.
Right. So right, Kenny Stills has like sneaky wide receiver 3 potential or flex potential,
Which has been like his entire career, I think.
Exactly. But and then you just kind of go out, go through the list. Yeah, it's. I'd say after Samuel and Robinson, it gets a little murky.
Yeah, I think I said it before. I'm just waiting for a wide receiver 3 to turn into a wide
receiver.
Yeah,
So you
a
figure
wide receiver to be a wide receiver.
And like this is why like the Allen Robinson move was so good, because we already talked about your quarterbacks being so good. So now if you didn't have Allen Robinson, this receiver would be just shit.
Yeah.
This receiver
Yep.
list.
And I like just the fact that you have okay, you don't have a real wide receiver 3 that is going to be your guy. You don't know who's going to be your wide receiver 4, but you have a bunch of guys, so you're upping the odds of at least somebody hitting.
Yeah.
You know?
And
Right.
it's
And
not
because-
like
and
you're not guessing on dudes that you're like, I don't want to start him. You're guessing on dudes that's like, oh, he could be good or he could be good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
You have a lot of
upside there.
potential. There's a lot of potential.
Right. And that's why I like, not to like move back to running backs, but in terms of like filling a flex spot, if there's question marks with your wide receiver 3 and you need a flex, and it turns out you only end up with like 1 starting caliber running back, that eliminates a flex for running back. Then if you struggle to find a flex spot in your receivers because guys aren't good enough, again, it's just the potential to create a problem is there. It is glaring.
Yeah,
But
I think
again-
I have more options for flex with my wide receivers
For sure.
right now, and that's probably the way I'm going into it, especially in a PPR league. That was kind of my strategy, like just the way you look at my entire roster, heavy on wide receivers, just because at most you can start 5, if you really need to.
Right.
Not that I'm imagining that I've got 5 wide receivers all hitting more than I think Kirk Cousins is going to put up every week. But if it happens, it happens.
Right. And again, you have 2 rookies who are, one more than the other, but you have Ayuk and Claypool, who I think in terms of like height,
Isn't it Ayuk?
and
Yeah.
Ayuk, yeah, whatever, dude. You know what I'm talking about. I'm never going to pronounce. Yeah, pronunciation is not my strong point. Clearly.
You're just gonna say San Francisco wide receiver number 2? Just like the
Yeah.
old like Sega games where they
Yeah.
didn't have any real
Fucking
players.
Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah, they didn't have the NFLPA, so it's all fake names. But you have like the rookies who you have to hope and you have to hope that one of those guys hits, because then it's there. I've already said with Claypool, I have more faith in Claypool, and that's why I didn't care about trading James Washington, because I just see Claypool passing him. So
Yeah,
clearly,
he's like
and
6'5" and he's fast.
yeah. And if you didn't trade up to get him at whatever it was, 3.10, I was going to grab him at 3.12. So, like I said, it is what it is. But like, clearly the interest was there for at least
Now-
me. So,
I was surprised he made it past the second round and that far into the third.
I
right.
think
But
we
my
drafted.
bias.
I think the fact that we drafted as early as we did helped you in that aspect because I think the whole pick of Claypool to the Steelers and the fact they announced was a wide receiver made people like not know what to think for a while. You know, he's coming to already a good wide receiver room, and then a lot of people thought he was going to be a tight end league. Now they're saying wide receiver. It's like people were like, well, I mean, I guess, but then it took people like a couple weeks to be like, you know what, I actually kind of like this. So I think that helped, especially a league like ours where, okay, yeah, we're all paying attention, but we're not all dialed in like these highly competitive. Like we're competitive, we're just not like we're not putting thousands.
We're not
dollars.
High stakes.
High stakes, yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Something I wanted to throw in really quick too, because before we move off this, when Mike, you noted that okay, what are the chances you're going to have, or Phil, you noted too, what are the chances you're going to have 5 wide receivers hit, and what is it even better than Cousins? General superflex strategy, it will not be better than Cousins no matter what you do, because we look at the top overall scoring teams, scoring teams, and Cousins was 40th in points per game, and there's a couple guys on this list that really shouldn't be on this list, like Jeff Driscoll is 18th in points per game. So I would say he's close to somewhere around 35 to 40. But just to name the guys he's right in front of, just to think, obviously you want to start a guy that's scoring more points per game. He's ahead of George Kittle. He's ahead of Amari Cooper. He's ahead of Chris Carson, Al Robinson, Keenan Allen, Antonio Brown didn't play, but DJ Moore, DJ Chark. You know, like all these guys, Kenyon Drake, Calvin Ridley, Josh Jacobs. He's ahead of all of them. So you might think you have 5 great wide receivers. That still doesn't even mean that they're going to all score over.
Yeah.
Opportunity is king.
And you just explained why quarterbacks are so valuable, because even if like I think I get stuck on sometimes like, oh, like would this guy sniff a roster in a 1 quarterback league? No, but you have to. But again, when they play, but that's why you can go into a redraft 1 quarterback league and just stream quarterbacks and still win.
And when we were looking at this list, I just named all those people ahead that Kirk Cousins is ahead of. He was 18th in points per game for quarterbacks. And again,
that's what
Jeff
I mean.
Driscoll's
Like
on this list, so
in a redraft, I mean, he's probably rostered, but in some redraft leagues, you might be able to pick up Kirk Cousins on waivers.
Yep.
Probably.
That just shows the value, and why you wouldn't. And I'm sure I made that mistake with my lineup a few times, like not starting like a quarterback, just thinking, oh, well, what if he, but it is what it is. But you're right. But again, and who the fuck cares if you have 5 receivers? Great, trade bait.
Yeah,
but I mean, we kind of discussed. I mean, Robinson and Samuel, and then it's like hope someone hits for your week 1 third receiver. Yeah. I think that goes underrated. That because we've had other leagues where we've only had 2 starting wide receivers, but having 3 starting wide receivers, it gets more tricky than you think, because you figure there's 36 starting wide receivers every single week, and especially with our roster, there's so many. Like there's so many, and it's just you just never know.
It also just makes it more challenging in general, just having any more roster, and that's something I actually been thinking about too. Not that I was going to bring this one actually up like I was with the tight ends, but I do want to consider down the line maybe adding another just regular flex spot, just to make it even more challenging. You need to have even more guys on your team, and then like the real good teams are going to have more depth. Yeah. So I kind of like that idea too.
Yeah, just a regular flex.
I wasn't going to bring that one up for this year, but that's just something to think about too. Yeah, just a regular flex. Yeah, definitely not another super flex. Absolutely.
I mean, hey, something to consider. We'll get some voting out there.
It's a tight end flex. You have to start 2 tight ends.
Well, see, I would hate to start 2 tight ends.
Oh my God, yeah.
I did so many times.
Maybe that's another thing. Maybe because there's not enough running backs in the league to start that many. Maybe we make it just a wide receiver tight end flex. So, you have that 1 flex, you can have it, but you can't start 4 running back. I don't know.
Right.
It's just something
which hurts a team like me with the running backs I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you also have 2 tight ends, so that wouldn't hurt you.
Exactly. I know, but some when it's like a regular flex, last year I started 2 tight ends a handful of weeks. So.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Right there. Listen, the possibilities are endless for fantasy. It's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
But again, the wide receivers. What are his wide receivers ranked?
That's 10th. It's not good. which
Okay.
makes sense because there's so much uncertainty. It's really so when I look at your wide receivers, they like your wide receiver 1, but they hate that Deebo Samuel is your wide receiver 2. So that's really it. It's the fact that you don't have a guy like Deebo Samuel. Yes, we're expecting him to be good, but it's not necessarily proven like a lot of the other guys on this list.
Right.
So and then they have Michael Gallup as an like an average wide receiver 3. So it's really just the Deebo Samuel part they don't like.
Yeah.
But it makes sense that hey, the 3 guys that you were thinking of are what's on there. So
True, but again, I think again it's another like the rookie. If the rookies hit, then you're solid going forward for sure.
Yep.
Which I think that there's a good chance that both of them do.
Yep.
And even Harry this year. But again, with the Patriots quarterback play, I think everything I New England's questionable this year.
Yeah.
But listen, that's who's there, and
yeah, it's not bad.
And like I said, previous, you've got the draft capital to make moves if you're contending, and you need to fill a spot.
You ready to talk about Phil's eyes?
The tight ends, which he lucked in. I'm not going to say lucked into good guys.
He lucked into it because I told him.
I was guided into. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I literally looked at the thing. And I was like, I don't have a spot in my roster for this guy. Hey Phil, you know what? Do you need a guy? You should pick up this guy. And he goes, okay.
Yeah.
And we're
That's
talking
really
about Hayden Hurst.
Right. So you have three tight ends on your roster. So you have Harrison Bryant, you have Hunter Henry, and Hayden Hurst. So right away,
You like saying all those H's?
right. And right away, I mean, week 1, Hunter Henry's your tight end 1, but Hayden Hurst, man, he like I said earlier, he was still really good behind Mark Andrews. Now he's starting, coming from a team where Austin Hooper was a big deal in that Atlanta offense, even with all the weapons that are around Matt Ryan. He's still right. He would still hit the tight end nonstop, and I mean, I think you're in a great spot. You can honestly, if the wide receivers and running backs don't work out, I could see where you start 2 tight ends some weeks, whether it's bye weeks and guys just aren't there. I don't. You could do worse than having Hayden Hurst as a flex.
It will be later in the year because you have to know that Hayden Hurst actually does something.
Yeah.
Because there's always the possibility that he doesn't. Because Austin Hooper wasn't really worth starting his first couple years in Atlanta either.
True, but I don't know if
He didn't hit till like last year. You know?
True, but again, if he's one of those where if you just plug him in and his ability's there, you never, maybe not week 1, but week 10, if he hits, then you could justify starting 2 tight ends.
Yeah.
So I think you're in a great spot. I think this is definitely one of the better. Just those 2 guys for me. I think it's a great tight end room.
And Hurst is a year older than Hooper, so I think he's got a year of experience.
Hurst was an old rookie coming into the league. This is Hurst's 3rd year.
Yeah.
And it was Hooper's 5th.
That's
Hurst
another
is
reason
already
why.
26, right?
Yeah, that's another reason why Atlanta made this trade is because Hurst is on a rookie contract and they need cheap guys. So.
Yeah.
Right. But listen, I mean, it's good guys to have. It's like I said, Hunter Henry. We know what Hunter Henry is. He's going to be good. I think for those few years
if he stays healthy.
Right, which hopefully he can. But again, I mean,
hasn't done it yet. But we can say that about a lot of guys in the league.
Exactly, but the potential is there. But even with the injuries, I still think out of these 3 guys, obviously you're
for sure. If he's on the field, he's fantastic.
Right. Although who knows though, because he always had Phillip Rivers. Now it's Taylor or Justin Herbert. So who knows? Tyrod Taylor didn't. The weapons around Tyrod Taylor, at least from his starter time in Buffalo, didn't exactly light it up.
They also didn't have any tight ends.
Right. Well,
they didn't have much of anything, to be honest.
I'm talking in general. I think those years, like not even tight ends.
Yes.
I just
was
think
Sammy Watkins still on the team then? Right. Yes.
I think he was.
Yes. So they had Sammy Watkins and Zay Jones as young Zay Jones.
Yeah. Right. So there wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot of talent. But,
Shady McCoy. Right.
Yeah. So it wasn't a whole lot going on, but. Who knows? Who knows? But it's still different because look, I mean, if Phillip Rivers is still in LA, I think there's even more value to have with Henry. But
I think personally, the earlier that Justin Herbert gets in, the better for Hunter Henry, just because in general rookies like to target their tight ends.
Right. Because they're so reliable.
Henry runs the intermediate routes that Herbert's probably going to want to
Tyrod Taylor is such a weird guy to try to project for anybody on that roster. I feel like it's such an unknown on what he's going to do. For fantasy, it's fine because he's going to run at least a little. Like it's not like he runs like crazy amounts, but he's going to run enough that at least it's going to up his fantasy value. And I hope he's a fine starter the weeks he's in. But like for actually projecting to the rest of the guys on the team, I have no idea.
I feel like it's like you'll have it's like Keenan Allen you can rely on, and then everyone else is like, oh shit.
Yeah, but like, is Keenan Allen going to get the 140 targets like you did with Phillip Rivers over and over? I don't know. Maybe not.
Depends.
I personally
Again,
think Keenan Allen. I know Lucho as well, but we personally think Keenan Allen is that good that he deserves to be targeted like that. And I actually think Phillip Rivers might have been holding him back on some of the longer routes that he could run because he's
a lot of guys deserve it, but again, if quarterback play isn't up to snuff, then you can't. I feel like DeAndre Hopkins is one of the few guys to be a top receiver and overcome his awful
not even
play,
that except for that year of Brock Osweiler.
Except for Brock Osweiler,
even he couldn't do it.
But listen, let's look. Pretty good roster. Clearly, Fantasy Pros likes your roster. Like we've said, the team's good. I think you make the playoffs this year. I say, meh. It's tough to say what seed, but I think this is a playoff roster. It's definitely improved from a year ago.
Yes, definitely. Originally before this Allen Robinson trade, my opinion was there were a couple teams at the top, and then there were a couple of these fringe playoff teams. Some of them are going to make the playoffs, some of them aren't. And Phil, I thought you were one of those teams. But after some of these moves you've made and some of this other stuff you've done in the rookie draft, I think your team is probably if I had to put money down, I'd say you'd be making the playoffs. So I think you're ahead of some of those fringe playoff teams now. I think you're more of a solidified playoff team. Maybe you're a step behind some of the guys like me and Mike, but you're right up there. And once you make the playoffs, anything can happen. So.
Right. Clearly, I was fucking 6 seed last year, and somehow I pulled it off.
Exactly. So
honestly, I definitely wanted to be here to hear this stuff because it was kind of like confirming my own suspicions that I was making at least
strides,
moves in the right direction.
These were and again, not to bring up Anthony's team again, but the moves Anthony's making aren't adjusting his team. The moves you've made have clearly put your team better. Like you traded a surplus in quarterback. Even take away a lot of like the other, like even draft day and some other stuff. Just this Matt Ryan for Allen Robinson trade boosted your stock because you already had 2 quarterbacks, but now you have a legitimate wide receiver 1 that you didn't have before that trade. Just that trade alone puts you in a better spot, in my opinion.
Cool.
And it clearly helps both. It helps both teams. It's not even to say the trade was unfair. I already said it was fair, but for your sake, it boosts your team.
I've said it to you before, Phil. The best trades are the ones that piss off the other 10 people in the league, because the 2 teams that made the trade get better than everyone else.
Yep.
Right.
So.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
All right, man. I know you wanted to. I know you wanted to hop off after we stopped talking about your team, so you don't have to join us for the Alex Hochberg bashing that we're about to do.
Oh yeah.
The evisceration.
The number 1 hate mail sender.
Yeah.
Well, he said he wanted an honest opinion of his team, so I'm going to give him an honest opinion of his team.
We're gonna give him a dishonest opinion because we're actually gonna say positive things. Just kidding.
Yeah, but guys, thank you so much for having me on.
Dude.
Podcast. Look forward to listening to it tomorrow whenever it uploads.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you taking the time to jump on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Say hi to Olive.
You got it.
Sifa.
See ya.
All right, so thanks again to Phil for joining us to break down his team. That was the most professional sounding interview. Put us on TV, somebody.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Maybe we add space in here.
Yeah,
I know.
And if you like that interview, you should go to ZipRecruiter.com, where you'll be able to take as many interviews as you can to get the job of your dreams.
Every podcast, we have to advertise Omaha Steaks next, and then like
what
whatever
else? FantasyOwners.com.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And if you like that catch, you could catch a new episode of
Family Guy. Oh my god.
The Cash App was always an ad.
Oh yeah, there's some other ones too.
Manscaped.
Yes, Manscaped for sure. BetOnline.ag.
BetOnline.ag, my OG site.
That's a good.
Everybody I've ever told, except for you guys, about that site has thought that I'm just dumping my money into a fucking Ponzi scheme, and I probably am.
Whatever. DraftKings Sportsbook. $190 on the match on Sunday.
Man,
Thank
stop
you.
bragging, dude.
Listen, just because
honestly, we have so much more time. Probably we could just drive down to Jersey, place a couple bets, and come
Might
back.
as well.
you could,
Yeah.
Honestly.
because New York sucks. It won't,
I mean,
won't
I'm
pass
pretty close. Mike, how far away do you think are you? How far away are you from the Newburgh Beacon Bridge?
45 minutes.
And how far into Jersey are you from the border?
15.
So I'm like a half hour away.
Give her on a good day. On a good day, yeah.
Well, now there's no traffic because no one's at work.
Right. Well, especially because you're right in Beacon, you just hop on
Yeah.
the throughway and then
Mhm.
you literally just cross in over on the 17. And you're good. But I've done that before. I've been like, oh shit, I'm going to be in New York. Like on Thanksgiving, I'm like, oh, I'm leaving the state on Thanksgiving. Let me get these bets in before I leave.
Yep. I meant to drive down before the NFL draft because I wanted to do some draft props. Those are some of my favorite.
I love the draft props.
Yeah. All right, you guys ready to shit
man.
all over Alex Hochberg's
Yeah,
team?
man, this is
Fucker.
bad, but here we are. So Alex Hochberg, he finished 8th last season in our league.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, 8th because he
Yes,
had the
8th.
5th. So he only had and he traded a bunch of picks, still missed the playoffs. So all right, here we go. Let's just start with his quarterbacks: Ryan Fitzpatrick, Baker Mayfield, Matthew Stafford, and Jameis Winston. So right off the bat, last year he had 4 starters. This year he's got 2. Right off the bat,
he has 3 for now.
Yeah.
so he's got 2 quarterbacks going through the whole season. What's his QB1? Would you start? I mean, it's irrelevant.
It's
I was gonna
Stafford
say.
for now.
I was gonna say it's irrelevant because you're probably starting both. One at
What a
Superflex.
fall from grace from the first round startup draft pick.
Was that 10th overall or 9th overall or something?
11th? Yeah, somewhere around
Something.
there.
I was shocked when
I
he
think it
took
was
him that
10th
early.
actually. Yeah, 10th because I think
He was the second quarterback taken
Yep.
after
behind
Mahomes.
Yep.
Man, that just.
You want to know who was after that?
Andrew Luck.
Yes, sir.
Oh.
I know. He's been
man.
reincarnated into Andrew Locke though.
Yeah,
so it's okay.
Drew Lock. We talk about how this coming 2021 might be weird because of all this. That year was pretty fucking weird too because of
Yeah.
Luck retiring.
Yeah.
We had the keeper league we had the keeper league redraft thing in it, and I wish our draft would have been a week earlier because I know somebody would have taken Luck early and then he would have retired probably during our draft.
Yeah, well, it was like right. It wasn't too long after ours.
Mm-mm. It was a couple
Ours
days.
Is it?
drafted. Yeah.
because it was in the because we did our startup in like May, but he retired like
No,
in the
we
middle
didn't.
of
We
a
did.
preseason
We
game.
did the startup in July. I
July.
think. Yeah.
Because he retired in the
was it?
beginning.
But he did it retire in preseason, so maybe it was a couple weeks after. But
Maybe
still,
It was a few
wasn't-
weeks after, but
Yeah,
I
I was
know-
in Montreal all the time, and when I saw it on my phone, I was like,
I-
no.
I was sitting at Calvin's
Fucking
house in
way.
a hammock, fucking 2
Yeah.
hours away from my house, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
yeah, it's wild, man. But either way, he doesn't have Andrew Luck on his roster. You do now.
Yeah.
But when
Well,
you
he didn't
consider
either, but
but when
still
you consider but when you consider 2 out of the top 3 quarterbacks in our startup draft are, I mean, I'm not going to say Baker Mayfield is irrelevant, but he could be on his way to being irrelevant if his poor play continues, which is what he was last year.
Personally think he'll have a bounce back.
I
I'm
think so
attributing
because
more of this shit year last year to Freddie Kitchens and not
Yeah,
Baker
Freddie-
Mayfield.
Mhm.
Baker Mayfield
Oh.
for sure, he had his problems, but
Yeah.
Freddie Kitchens did him no favors to fix any
I
of those
feel
or put him in
like
position.
why? I mean, maybe the Browns have their guy now in Stefanski, but why wouldn't the Browns have just kept Greg Williams at the time? Like he did.
I like the Stefanski hire.
No, so do I. But like going back to last year when they hired Freddie Kitchens, like
Oh.
why not? Like why not
It's-
just at the time? Why not just keep Greg Williams?
Freddie Kitchens was Baker's guy. They were doing well with him, so they wanted to continue it all for Baker Mayfield, and you've proven that that's not the case. So now you have to go back
Right.
to doing it, and they changed their GMs too. So go back
That's
to
true.
a standpoint of running things and not worrying about
Yeah.
what your quarterback thinks.
That's true.
about you.
But now you have a guy. All right. So all right. We said so. Stafford's fine. I think he's solid fantasy wise. He's I think
He's always
almost-
underrated, but he's fine. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But for Mayfield, and you look at Stefanski coming in, who comes from Minnesota, where that was a run first offense.
But it was
So
a
how-
run-first offense based on the personnel they had. I feel like.
I
Yeah,
still
but-
think it's going to be a run first offense.
Yeah, look at. I mean, Chubb and Hunt could arguably be the best tandem in the league.
Oh,
So
they
so
definitely
They
are.
are.
So you have that combined with Mayfield's struggles last year. Why would you not at least start the season run first
Well,
and then just hope Mayfield just doesn't make mistakes?
I think even the personnel they have lines up pretty well because you look at now that they have Hooper, you have Hooper and Njoku. That's like your Rudolph and
That's your
Smith,
two tight end set.
You know, so you have your two tight ends, you have your running backs. It's not going to be 100% to Nick Chubb like it was to Dalvin Cook, but
no, you show your hand way more with Chubb versus Hunt, not because of their talents, but because of the way you know that team wants to use them. And
then between Landry and Beckham, that's kind of like
they're such different players, though.
They are.
That's why. That's part of the reason why I think it's going to be different.
Well, I would say it's better than what Minnesota had, and I think Baker Mayfield has the talent to be better than Kirk Cousins too.
Absolutely.
It's just
so not to take anything away from Cousins. Cousins was good last year.
He's done it, but Baker's upside is higher than what Kirk Cousins ever will be.
Right, but it's just is the concern of does Cleveland just be run first and maybe the quarterback production isn't there for whatever the reasons are, whether it's just so Baker doesn't make mistakes, whether they like Chubb and Hunt and they're going to run the offense through those guys. There are question marks about Baker's potential fantasy production that worry you going, even maybe not this year, but just worry you going forward that Mayfield's not the guy in Cleveland. So, and now you look at Alex, who again spent a first round startup, not even first round rookie, first round startup on Baker Mayfield.
I don't know if Baker ever becomes like a top 5 guy like people were projecting him to be before last season started, but even with a bounce back, I could see him in that Matt Stafford range. A little better than Kirk Cousins, like somewhere low end QB1, high end QB2, maybe closer to low end QB1. I could see him being there, but it will never be worth what Alex paid for him, right? In my opinion.
Would he have been better off at the time? I mean, I feel like maybe was Deshaun Watson coming off that injury when we did our startup?
No, Deshaun Watson was there. It's just it was the season.
I thought he was coming off that, didn't he? Because he hurt his knee. I thought he was coming off that.
But was that the year before?
I think it was the year prior. I think there was no way because Deshaun Watson was drafted early too. There's no way that he would have been drafted.
No, Deshaun Watson was like a late second. Because I was targeting him and I missed him by a couple of picks.
But you can't really take into account where they were exactly being taken.
Right, but if you
I just meant in terms of a quarterback, he was the he was the 4th quarterback off the board.
Yeah, but I'm saying
he was mid-second, 2.06.
Okay, but if you look at where the draft is now, I mean, like I would argue that Deshaun Watson was more valuable than Mayfield. Going into our startup.
I thought Andrew Luck was 3rd, but no, Deshaun Watson was 3rd.
Oh, Luck was after. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, because Joey took him.
Watson tore his ACL in 2017.
Yeah. So, he already had it.
All right, it was a year before. I thought it was 2018. So then, I would argue even at the time of our startup that Watson was the better option than Mayfield at the time.
I also agree at the time too, but Alex is also a Browns fan, so you take
you gotta take your allegiance away when you're playing fantasy.
But when it's when you're doing kind of like a flip flop of who to take, you both have the value the same. Take the guy that's going to make it more fun for you. Take the guy for your team that you like.
Yeah, true.
Plus, you could argue that with the way that Mayfield played in his rookie year, you see even more untapped potential.
Yep.
I don't know. I get it. I mean, it's not, and I'm not. I don't know. I'm not here to argue this startup. It is what it is, but it's just one of those shit, man. If you just took like Watson, you'd be in he'd be in a great spot.
I'm gonna take a look see if I can find the ADP for the quarterbacks.
We can relitigate every pick, and it's like,
of course,
you're gonna have the hindsight to say that about a lot of stuff. I'm not saying I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm just saying it's a futile effort.
But it's one of the, and then all right, so I mean, Jameis Winston. I mean, so say Breeze plays one more year, and then he retires. Does Winston's on a 1-year deal? Like. So like they can't even it's not even to say he's going to be the starter for the Saints.
What's his name is still saying that Taysom Hill's the guy.
That's bullshit. Taysom Hill will never be a starting quarterback in the NFL. I don't care what kind of bullshit you want to feed me. It's never happened.
Sorry to backtrack a little bit, but I looked up the July 2019 QB Dynasty ADP, and it was Mahomes 1. Andrew Luck 2, Deshaun Watson 3, Baker Mayfield 4. But it was still, it's close. It was close.
There you go.
You could, I mean, right? That's what I mean. Like again, we could have this argument. I think the only reason I'm bringing it up is because he was taken so high, and you're talking about his first round startup pick, where it just looks like I don't want to say bust yet, but if things continue, it ain't getting better.
Sorry, I wasn't looking at Dynasty ADP. Rodgers was actually ahead of Baker, but he was
in Dynasty.
Yeah, Dynasty
Oh, wow.
Superflex, Dynasty Superflex QB ADP.
He's
Baker
not
was
even the best QB on his own team.
Baker was 18.4 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So
wow. Okay.
I wouldn't say
there was a big
in
gap between him and
Superflex-
Wentz too.
In a
That
makes
Superflex
sense.
startup, I wouldn't say that taking him 10th. He took him 10th.
Yeah, 10th.
I would
Yeah.
say taking a player ADP 18 at 10 is a reach.
Like Watson, Mahomes was 1.4. Then there's a huge gap to Watson, who was 13.2. But then from Watson to Baker, that's 2 through 5, and it's 13.2 to 18.4, and then there's a gap. So it's like they were all in the same tier going into it, even by general consensus.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't blame him. Take the guy you want. So
Yeah.
I get it. It's just like it stinks for his team, especially because who else you
Yeah,
could have taken with
hindsight.
that pick. But I mean, it is what it is. But it's just it's decent for quarterbacks. I don't think he's in trouble, but I think the potential, and
I
even
think
going
he's-
forward,
I
and
think
even
he
going
could be in
forward,
trouble.
I
He
mean,
needs to-
because
needs
you
to
look at
fix that
Steph, he does. Because you look at if Mayfield just keeps regressing, and he ends up running himself out of. I don't think he's going to pull a Johnny Manziel and run himself out of the league in 2-3 years. But if he doesn't play well, he doesn't get his option picked up. Who the hell knows? Like he's in.
Yeah.
This is
Baker
this is
was
your,
also a better prospect than Johnny Manziel.
No, I agree. I'm just it's just like another Browns quarterback's coming and going. But and even with Stafford, like Stafford's a good fantasy quarterback, but I feel like every year we've heard, oh, it's his
So
last
he's-
year in Detroit.
Well, he's 31, 32, and now his back
Right.
is bothering him. He had all that time
Exactly.
to rest, but back injuries don't usually go away.
Right,
Look
exactly.
at Joe
Okay.
Flacco, and then it turned into a neck injury. But
Even a best case scenario that the Dolphins want Tua to sit for a year and you start Fitzpatrick for a year, that's 1 year. He's already the late
and I don't think it
30s
lasts.
quarterback.
I don't think he
No,
lasts.
neither do I. But I'm
I
saying
put
best,
Fitzpatrick right around where you would expect out of Tyrod Taylor. That amount of time, that kind of
right.
production.
And the Dolphins have already said they're not opposed to playing to a year one. Like he's definitely it's not a no, you're definitely sitting situation. It's if Fitzpatrick's 1 and 3, he might start week 5
I
or
think
something like that.
it's trickier with Tua because it's also a health consideration.
I mean, all
Exactly.
signs we won't know still because they still can't do full medicals like they want to.
Yeah.
But all signs have been pointing that he's going to be fine, even this year.
Yeah. And then like I said with Winston, it's just so tough because he's a backup now, so he's not even going to start unless Breeze gets hurt. But I mean, Breeze has been pretty. Well, he got hurt last year, but more than mostly reliable, Drew Brees. So I just can't see where Winston starts, or it's just 1 year and maybe Winston goes somewhere else and starts in 2021. But for this year, he's shot with that. And you consider Winston was probably his better QB just numbers wise last year,
For fantasy,
especially.
yes.
For fantasy, yeah,
Winston
especially
was
second.
like
He's
a
just-
top 4 QB in
He was just such a
numbers.
liability in the real NFL that.
Oh
that's
yeah.
Right.
the issue.
And then the championship week, he laid that absolute egg.
Winston?
Winston did. I thought he did.
Maybe. I don't remember. I honestly have no idea. I was just asking. I wasn't saying it like shocked, like what?
No, but because I think Winston was great, and then he opened the I think that week 16 because Hopkins had a bad game in that championship week, and I remember it was Houston and Tampa playing on a Saturday. And
Oh no, he did because I kept trying to trade for Jameis Winston with Alex before the trade deadline last
Right.
year, and I couldn't do it. He wanted a first-round pick for him, and I wasn't going to give a first-round pick for Jameis Winston.
right, which
So-
smart. Good thing you didn't.
And then I laughed because it came to championship week, and he would have shit the bed anyway for my team.
Mhm.
Not that I had anyone that did any better, but
Right, but it's just one of those where I think his quarterbacks are okay for 2020, but going forward, he might be in trouble.
yeah, I think so. He needs to get another guy.
Even if Mayfield turns out fine, you're looking at you only have one starting quarterback on your roster potentially in a couple of years. But
he needs a third guy. That's really it. You need
Right,
a third
exactly.
real guy, not a guy that's
Like, I mean-
away like Fitzpatrick, and not a guy that don't even know if he'll ever get a starting job again.
but the problem is that we'll get to the rest of his roster, but his roster's so bad. He doesn't have depth like Phil did
Yep.
to get like to fix his receivers. Like he doesn't have like a receiver he can trade away to get a quarterback back.
Well, when we look at what Phil did, Alex hasn't gone down that road yet. Phil traded away a bunch of his players to get picks.
Right,
Phil
exactly.
traded away good players to get young players. Like he got Debo.
Right.
He traded away Adam Thielen, and I forget who and Chris Carson
Mhm.
for Debo Samuel, and it ended up being James Conner, whatever. But James Conner, Chris Carson's kind of a wash in my opinion. But he got Debo
Yeah.
Samuel for Adam Thielen. You know what? Adam Thielen, yes, he's still better probably than Debo Samuel now, but that's not lasting much longer.
No. And you can't. I mean, you can, and for him who he wasn't sniffing the playoffs to make a trade to maybe help you immediately. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
You know my thoughts about that. If you're a non-playoff team, most trades don't make sense.
In hindsight, again, it's hindsight. Whatever, you can't really say it, but he should have made a trade with me for Jameis. Because look at Jameis now; he would have got at least a second-round pick. I was offering more than a second. I just wasn't offering a full first. I don't think maybe I did. I don't even remember what the final offer came down to. But he should have traded me that. I was also asking for Chris Carson. It looks like he probably should have done that. It's just.
Yeah, but his quarterbacks are just. It's again 2020. He might be okay, but a lot of problems. What's quarterback rankings? If you pulled it up.
For this year, his quarterbacks are 11th.
Yikes!
Yeah, they're not happy about that.
Again, because you could argue that Stafford.
Stafford's the reason he's the one ranked ahead of him. So,
it's one of those like you could probably find arguably both of his starting quarterbacks on waivers and redraft. I think that's how you have to almost look at quarterback rankings
in non-superflex. You mean as opposed to
in redraft one QB leagues, you could argue Mayfield and Stafford are on waivers every week, and you would pick them up and stream them, and that's it. So it goes a long way. I mean, obviously that's not our league, but I feel like that's how you can almost look at some QB ranks. But as I choke,
I think, like I was saying, he just needs a third guy because either Baker, not having to rely on Baker to start for you until you know what's going on would be smart. Matt Stafford, yes, he's starting for you, but you need another guy that you could rely to start on. And if Baker's a third guy, that's perfect right now. Or if you at least get a third guy with upside, a guy like Daniel Jones, a guy like Drew Lock, a guy like, I don't know, any of these rookies too would be great for his team.
Yeah. And he just needs. What
is the snark over there? It looks like
your thing
Luce?
Froze.
Mind it?
Yeah, your camera froze for a little while.
Oh boy.
Alex froze, and I choked on my own.
Was my audio still good?
Your audio was fine. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
It was just the entire time it was coming out of like a painting of you because it froze while you were out of focus.
Oh. All right. Well, anything to add on that quarterback, Luch?
Nah, not really. You guys hit all
Head
the points.
Still empty.
I'm a little more bullish on Winston being a capable asset for multiple years.
Do you think
he shows out well this year?
Gets that? Do you think he gets that job?
I think so.
New Orleans.
If they can keep him on for cheap.
Yeah. Do you think Drew Brees actually retires after this year?
That's iffy.
I think that's a bigger question.
It's really just a question of when he wants to walk away because he's got deals for TV lined up. So
I feel like the only thing keeping him around is because he wants to have the touchdown record over Tom Brady, and as long as Tom Brady's around, they both don't want to give up that because if one retires,
get another ring with a good.
Well,
team.
yeah, for sure. Obviously, everyone wants that. But
yeah.
I mean, I hope Brees doesn't retire clearly for another. I hope he sticks around for 2 more years. Obviously. But
I hope he sticks around so they can just keep losing to Minnesota every year because I find that hilarious.
But all right, so yeah, his quarterbacks. You said 11th, so it's clearly he's in a rough spot. It doesn't get much better looking at his running backs. This is rough. Holy shit. So Chris Carson.
He got hammered hard in the offseason.
He did. I think him and Kyle got hurt the worst running back wise.
Yeah.
So he has Chris Carson, let's see, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which I mean you could argue might be his running back one at this point.
I think he is.
Royce Freeman, who you
Got
might
replaced.
he might be a cut candidate.
Yep.
Duke Johnson, Kerryon Johnson, Philip Lindsay, Bo Scarborough, Jordan Wilkins, Jamal Williams.
It's rough.
That
rough
sucks.
times.
Very rough.
So
You could argue
both
going
agree?
into. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you both agree CEH is his running back one?
Yeah, I mean you
At
could
the end
argue
of the year, yes.
you could
Maybe
argue
not from
week
the outset.
you could argue week one it's Kerryon Johnson just based on it's Kerryon
Yeah.
Johnson, he's gonna
Yeah.
play, but
Maybe.
fuck it. But dude, like if this group going into 2019 is awesome, I would have if you told me last year, oh man, I have Kerryon Johnson and Chris Carson and Philip Lindsay. I would love that group going into last year, but this year, oh my holy shit, that sucks.
Yeah,
They
Chris
took a
Carson-
nuke
it fell
on
off
his
quick.
RB room.
Like I think after 2018, you might have thought, oh, Chris Carson may be done because they love Rashad Penny, but maybe Carson's probably going to start for now, but how long is that going to last?
Yeah, it was nice that Alex CEH fell to him at 5 because that was a big help.
Yeah,
that helps a
Okay,
lot,
maybe
yeah.
Right.
maybe a running back in particular isn't the best thing for if you're about to
Yeah.
say a team isn't very good, but even without that, it doesn't matter. I probably would have still taken Edwards.
Right. We figure. I mean, he would have gotten CEH or Jonathan Taylor, I guess, at 5.
And
So
the
I
way
think either way, he would have been fine. But
and the way Phil brought it up too with taking the running back is if for some reason Alex's team is terrible, he starts to rebuild, he could always trade Edwards-Helaire for just as much as what he paid for, if not more.
well, I'd argue it's one of those like. I'd argue trading the players worth more. Like if he offered up the 5th overall pick, I think he gets more for CEH
Yes,
versus-
because I think CEH fell.
versus
In
just trading the
general,
pick.
the pick is more valuable because there's not endless, but there's more possibilities that you can like. Each team could have a different player they want to take there.
Yeah.
So that pick
That's
is
true.
more valuable in theory
In a
across the entire league.
vacuum, then
Yeah,
when it
but
becomes
the
solid.
fact that CEH fell to 5, CEH is more valuable than the 5th pick. But
Agreed, but
say if CEH didn't fall and he was the 3rd pick, what's more valuable, CEH or the 3rd pick? I don't know. Maybe
Right.
the 3rd pick, especially going
So
next
no-
year.
yeah, normally I like to say with everyone's teams, I've been saying, oh, what's your week 1 starters? But what does this running back room look like? Even not even the end of the year, halfway through this season. I think it's rough, man.
It's
I think
CEH.
and
CH
who?
Carson.
He has to hope Kerryon holds on long enough that Carson is 100% at that midpoint weight, because we don't know if Carson's going to be healthy going into the year or not, and even if he is playing, is he 100%? We don't know.
Mhm.
But at some point, yes, Carson should be 100%. So once he is 100%, yes, it's CEH and Carson.
But this going forward, it's bad because eventually, like for this year, he might get by a little bit, but I still think it's just even.
Well, going to next
like
year,
to-
is Carson even there anymore?
That's
Is
what I
Kerryon
mean. Is
Johnson
Carson
even there?
That's what I mean. He might be looking at. I mean, Jesus. I mean,
CEH and another rookie, or CEH and Lindsey.
that's why.
Again,
I mean,
Lindsey's still a backup. I don't know.
It's like, and
Wow.
he doesn't have depth to trade. He can't he doesn't have depth to make moves.
He has
like
picks, but
but
Yeah,
what's
I'm
the-
telling you right now,
use.
you should not be trading your picks to.
no. What do you unless
Acquire
you're
them.
Unless
you-
your team all of a sudden surprises and is actually pushing for a playoff spot, then sure, maybe
Like-
you can. But as of now, in the offseason and anywhere at the beginning of the season,
But I'd argue dynasty wise, he's in the worst spot you can be. Like, I just like literally like we'll get to his receivers, tight ends, and all that. But this team is so bad. like
it is.
like
it is
like
pretty bad.
like
And it
as
sucks.
much as
It's not his fault either, which
It's
is
not.
so
It's
sad.
not.
no, it's not. Like I said, going into 2019, this is a great group of running backs. It's just
And quarterbacks were good.
Yeah.
He had say what you want about Ryan Fitzpatrick. He had 3 legitimate starting quarterbacks going into last year. Now he has 2, and it's just one of those like, my God. But you're right. This isn't his fault. This isn't a case of making bad moves. It's just like Philip Lindsay was a great option last year, but now Melvin Gordon is, it was already a committee with Freeman last year. Now you have Gordon, who's I still don't believe he's going to take all the work, but Lindsay's not anything close to as valuable as he was. And I mean, Kerryon Johnson, we said, even you could argue Duke Johnson had some kind of value in that shot now. The guy, it's
I
just
mean,
by
he
virtue
had
of
value-
being a pass
he had
catcher on
value.
that team.
He had value going into last year when he got traded because people thought, oh, they gave up a 3rd-round pick for him. Maybe Bill O'Brien will use him, but nope.
But Bill O'Brien sucks.
Now we
clearly.
know. We
Yeah.
know. We see through the Bill O'Brien ruse.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is bad. This is. I think this is the worst. This is the worst running back group. Like you don't even. It's like I know we said Joey's was pretty bad, but at
Kyle's
least he
was
had
pretty bad too.
right. But at least like for Joey's was pretty bad after his one. But at least he has Christian McCaffrey. Like
Yes.
he. I mean, it's
Well,
bad. Like,
it's still better than Kyle's.
Yeah, no,
True.
Kyle's is.
Kyle's is bad.
bottom
So
of the
then
basement.
what? So then Hochberg is 11th.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, we
mean-
haven't touched on some of the other teams yet, so I don't completely remember what everybody has. But
I know, but this
out of the
is
teams we
just-
talked about, I mean,
I'd say.
Anthony's is pretty bad too.
I know, but it's just tough, man, because like he had I just keep shaking my head. It's amazing to look at how this is why you need to make moves in Dynasty because crap like this can happen every
Yeah,
year.
you can't be stagnant because
Like-
look at what happens when not even that he didn't make moves. He made some moves.
Right. But
Mhm.
It's
and
just- but the offseason he's been stagnant.
right, but I mean, but much like Kyle's team, it all kind of happened at once. Like Kyle's team, he got hit because now Mac and Damian Williams aren't going to be fantasy relevant for much longer. The same thing happened to him all at once. Chris Carson, Philip Lindsay, Kerryon Johnson, same scenario. It sucks for him.
Is that a honest opinion enough for you, Alex?
I'd argue this is a bottom 3 roster for sure.
It's down there. I don't know if it's bottom 3, but it's definitely bottom 6.
That's
It's
a stretch.
pushing bottom 3. I don't know if
to say he could be a fringe playoff team is a stretch for me.
No. I don't think he is a fringe. I think he's solidified a non-playoff, like a solid non-playoff team. I just don't know if he's all the way down at bottom.
So
3.
I'll correct myself. I think saying he could be the 7th seed is a stretch.
No,
And
no,
I think
I don't.
and honestly for him, this tank because
Yeah,
looking at all these rosters, if anybody could use a guy like Trevor Lawrence or Justin
Yes.
Fields, it's
Yes.
Alex.
yes,
So
100%.
I'll just say my advice is please hang on to your 1st-round pick. Don't trade it for anything at this point, and hope for the best.
Pick up more.
Yeah,
Right. Any value you might have, trade it because this is
old value.
This is rough.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Like someone like
Age-adjusted value.
Yes.
right. If someone wants to rent Kerryon Johnson for half a year, if he picks it up, fucking do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like either way.
Well, any of those running backs we just talked about, besides any running back on his team besides Clyde Edwards-Helaire should be traded if there's
Be available.
any
Agreed.
fair value offer for them.
Even CEH.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
at that, you can hang on to CEH for a year and see what happens if he really
Right.
wins. Like
But it's
because
rough.
say
And
you
now
do get all that
it's-
value, you do get Lawrence, you do get a couple other guys. Your roster could turn around pretty quick. Look at what happened with
Yeah.
Joe's roster.
Right. All right. I think did we crap on his running backs enough?
Yes, I think so.
All right.
Sorry,
let's move on. All
Alex.
right. Let's move on. His wide receivers are better. I mean, not by a lot.
He
but
has a couple
there.
very good wide receivers,
He
and
does.
then it
All
falls
right.
off.
Yes. All right. Let's go down the list. So Nelson Aguilar, Miles Boykin, Hakeem Butler, Chris Conley, Kiki Kuti, Zay Jones, Alan Lazard. I haven't listed a good one yet.
The whoa, Alan Lazard, dude.
Nah.
Alex wanted me to particularly let everyone know that he has the Lizard King in Sammy Watkins and the Lazard King of Alan Lazard.
That's really funny. Alan Lazard. Tyler Lockett, Jacoby Myers, Zach Pascal, Traquan Smith, Cortland Sutton, Adam Thielen, Sammy Watkins, and Albert Wilson.
He had a great rising wide receiver 1 in Cortland Sutton too, and that got bombed.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I still think he's good, but yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot of guys in Denver now.
Yep. He's still the wide receiver 1 in Denver for now and
Nominally.
for probably
For
next
now.
year. But just his amount of targets are going to go down no matter. I could say that for sure.
Yep.
Over the next 2 years, the amount of targets are going down. So for fantasy, your ceiling is capped.
Yeah, and I think, and you could argue Adam Thielen is like wide receiver
still
one,
good.
but
He's
for how long?
He's old. Yeah, he's old.
He's 30.
30,
He's going to be
30.
31 when the season starts, I think.
Right.
And then you have Tyler Lockett, who's solid.
Who's
But
solid?
how many goose eggs did he put up last year? I think he was the most frustrating fantasy guy last year.
Lockett is like, I love Tyler Lockett.
So do I.
But he's another one that I'm like, have we seen the best that he's going to do in fantasy
Especially
so
with
far?
DK Metcalf.
With
right?
Metcalf
I was going
there?
to say, I think so. Because
With,
Metcalf impressed last year, and
Yeah,
I think,
and Olsen, yeah. I was just going to
Yeah.
say Olsen too.
and again, and it's like I said, I think Lockett, he put up he had those random games where he just had no catches, and
Yeah.
they just couldn't find him the ball, and
Which-
listen, I get it. They're but this is the big difference between NFL caliber player and fantasy caliber player. Yes, Tyler Lockett's a locked in starting wide receiver, but on that offense, is that gonna happen again? Can you rely on him every week if he has weeks where he has fucking zero?
For the
That's infuriating.
As long as Brian Dable and 9/11 truther Pete Carroll. Thank you. As long as they're running the show on the team, no, you can't rely on him in the situation he's in now. And it's even more telling because he had the opportunity for more targets with Disley hurt, with the defense not being as good, so they were falling behind in games and having to catch up.
Before Metcalf started breaking
Even
out.
while Metcalf was broken out, he was still number 2 on the target totem pole.
Yeah.
Now
that's
he
true.
could drop even further, or it's going to be more spread out, so it's not going to be as many balls going his way. It's just,
This is bad.
it's so tough.
This is like it's just like looking at this roster. There's not a lot of hope.
I mean, he still has one more position group that's strong.
It is,
Yeah.
but just like you look at this,
Fortunately.
it's just. I mean, it's so many guys that are just what's his wide receiver? Adam Thielen's is wide receiver 1.
Thielen, Sutton, and
are pretty close.
Lockett.
So
That's not so. Lockett, Sutton, and Thielen are your starting 3. That's not good.
no, I like that. I actually like that.
I like it for this year, but how much?
Well, yeah. But for now, I do like it.
For this year, it's not bad. But again, if Drew Lock loves Judy and even KJ Hamler more than Sutton,
Which in Sutton's
That-
defense, I don't think is very likely.
I don't
right?
think so
maybe
either.
But it's
Judy,
just right. But
Even
if something fucking weird happens, you never know.
You have to assume that Denver's also just going to throw more in general.
But things happen all the
passing
time.
teams in the
Like look at Jacksonville. Like DJ Chark was supposed to be nothing, and then look, here comes Gardner Minshew, and now it's his favorite target. So all these other guys.
DJ Shark
kind
was
of-
also a second-round pick.
Yeah,
well, so is KJ Hamler.
Pretty
But
solidly
it's a rookie
touted
year for
prospect.
KJ Hamler, and they're completely different prospects.
Right. No, right. Of course. But it's
Shark
just one of
was
those
a way better
things when
prospect for Hamler.
it's just one of those things when a quarterback steps in, if he likes a guy,
Well,
it's
he already
someone
showed.
else.
He already showed that he liked Sutton.
True.
That's-
No, you're right. But I don't know. It's the what if part. Like
Yeah.
how
It's
when a team becomes crowded. Okay, does their fantasy relevance take hits? That's kind of what I'm getting, and it's like just my God, this is
the way I see it is Thielen is a whatever wide receiver 1, but Sutton is a fantastic wide receiver 2.
yeah.
And then I'd say Tyler Lockett's still a good wide receiver 3.
Oh no, good wide receiver 3, but still I think
That's the way I see it. That's why I don't really hate it because okay, Thielen's not the best, but it's still fine. But the fact that you have a fantastic wide receiver 2 and a good wide receiver 3 is good for your team. But then there's nobody. Then there's literally nobody besides
I mean,
his boy.
who's
Lozon.
his? Yeah, right. Who's his wide receiver 4? Who's a flex? Because
Still
you sure as shit aren't starting a running back at flex with his group
Yes,
and Sammy Watkins. But at what point is Hardman and even Demarcus Robinson going to step up over him?
That's what I was saying too. I
Yeah,
I would hate to be starting saying. I would not want to start saying Watkins.
Right.
That's the thing. So honestly, I think he starts 2 tight ends right now.
Yeah.
Agreed.
He's
Yeah,
fine.
his listen, we know we let's talk about his receivers enough. Yeah, his tight ends easily. You could argue he has you could argue. I'm not going to say 4 potential starting tight ends, but Definitely, he has Rob Gronkowski, Travis Kelsey, Dawson Knox, and Irv Smith Jr. You can, I mean, Gronk and Kelsey tight end one. You
Yes.
can argue Gronk at flex. You could
Yes.
argue Irv Smith if he breaks out that's a
Yes.
flex candidate.
Yes.
And Dawson Knox is just weird.
There's still
I think
potential for him.
that's what I mean. I think he was like
He's
the
a good
default.
he's a good
he's like-
project tight end for his team.
Right. He was like the default starter last year or at
Mhm.
some point, and he got some targets from Josh Allen, but to have that, I mean, again, that's your tight end 4. His tight end's clearly far and away his best position, but
Yes.
you also you figure you've got Gronk for 1 year,
At
minimum.
most 2.
Right? But I mean,
There's no way.
Kelsey. Listen, Kelsey is top 2.
Could continue to be like that for 5 more years. Tight ends,
Exactly.
like maybe not 5, maybe 4, but still
Enough time
long
where
enough that
it's
you don't
not-
need to worry about it. Yeah.
Right. So I think his tight end's his best position, and he's in a great spot with that, and he has no choice but to start. He's starting I think he starts 2 tight ends every week.
Yep.
It's not. I think it's not even a question. I mean, the buys.
Yeah, no, I think
aren't.
he starts
buys
2
aren't too
quarterbacks, 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. That's
Yeah.
and that's it. But then he doesn't have anyone
sure.
behind anyway.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And I know we've said a couple teams have a good lineup. Well, I'll mention Skylar's team. Skylar's team with a great lineup, not a great depth. Just
It's
to say,
the
Skylar's
same
team
concept.
again.
It's the same.
It's the same concept, just not as good.
Yeah.
I think it's rough, man. And if he gets one injury, and there's so many questions about who's even going to
Alex at
play.
least still has his picks.
True, but he's just this is a rough team. I mean, he clearly doesn't make the playoffs, and
Yeah, I
I'd
agree.
say I think he finishes at best the same spot he finished last year, and that's a stretch.
Yep. No, I agree.
Like I don't think it's not the worst roster, but the
Who's
potential
the-
the
I
potential
think-
could be there.
Okay, I'm going down the list. So my team better. I'd say he's about on par with Joey's.
Okay.
So Tom's team better. Lucho, your team better.
Mhm.
Nick's team, I would say, is better.
Mhm.
I know
No.
I know he's pissed about that. Good thing Nick doesn't listen to this.
Yeah, I know.
Skylar's team is better. Like, yes. Anthony's team, no, is not better. Mike, your team better. Kyle's team, no, not better. Phil's team better. Dennis's team better. So really, that puts you and Joey fighting for the 3rd and 4th worst teams.
And if I'm Alex, I think Alex would benefit the most from trading any asset and just
That's the
tanking
thing.
this year.
2, Alex has more value on his team to trade than Joey does. Joey has Christian
Right.
McCaffrey. Yes, he has a couple other guys too, like Russell Wilson. Yes, but I still
But you
think
can
Alex
trade
overall-
Tyler Lockett, you can trade Cortland Sutton, you can trade Chris Carson now. You could trade Kerryon Johnson now, maybe like right before the season for someone that wants to take a shot on a 1-year guy. Maybe like a contending
you can
team might
trade
overpay.
Stafford if you want.
Right. So I just think
Gronk, obviously.
he stands to benefit the most from trading his older depth and just tanking, because I know Tom wants a quarterback, but Alex would benefit the most from getting one of those top 2 quarterbacks in next year's
Well,
draft.
Tom wanted a quarterback. Tom doesn't need that spot. Oh, yes, it would be absolutely amazing to have Trevor Lawrence, and he has probably going to be a good draft pick next
Right.
year. So
Right.
you don't need to give that up for anything. But he filled that QB spot. He doesn't have to
Right,
worry
but
about
it's one of those. I think Alex would benefit the most from just clearing out. It's tanking. I hate to say tanking, but he would benefit the most from just wiping out any older depth from his roster.
and
just
any
being
guy
shit.
and guys that are holding that are just upping his potential points.
Exactly, yeah, because I know that plays in, so we don't just purposely tank. I mean, if you trade guys, it is what it is. But yeah, I would argue he has the most to gain by adding one of the top quarterbacks, because he may be left with nobody in a couple of years if Mayfield keeps regressing and Stafford just gets older and Winston
Mm-hmm.
never gets a starting job again.
If Stafford gets older.
When Stafford gets older,
Well,
excuse me.
say Alex trades some of these guys. Say he gets 2 more 1st-round picks and no longer has, like, I don't know.
Would you trade a first for Stafford?
Yes, I would.
So
Personally.
then if there's a needy team for a QB, then maybe there's a
But
trade to be made.
If he can get one of every position, quarterback, running back, wide receiver next year, that's great.
That's what I mean. So
I say you could keep a guy like Cortland Sutton. He's still young. It doesn't matter.
No,
even if
for
he gets
sure.
planted,
But like I think
Thielen is a guy you need to trade.
Right.
Gronkowski is a guy.
Even if it's for like a second, I don't know. Like
yeah, I think Thielen is probably the number one. Thielen and Gronk are the two guys that really, and then the running backs obviously, are the two guys that really need to get traded. And then you get next down the list with guys like Stafford and Kelsey and stuff you want to trade those guys.
Right. And I even argue, but yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, even if Kelsey has another 3 years as a top tight end, I think his value is not going to be higher. So I think you
go out on top right now.
Might as well.
But because again, with this roster, he's not making the playoffs, and he doesn't have the assets to move up. So right, he benefits the most from just blowing it up.
It's fun to blow up a team. As much as it sucks that you're paying money and you're not winning money back, it's still fun to blow up a team. That's what's cool about Dynasty.
But dude, like, listen, if you spend $100 and you win,
still winning if you're losing.
Listen, you win, you get $750. I won the $750. If I lose for the next 6 years, I've still made money playing this league. That's the way you gotta look at it. Or just don't look at it anyway. Win one, get the bragging rights, and maybe. Well, I'm not going to get the trophy because we're in a pandemic. But
no, you're good. You're going to get it soon, man.
I know.
We're opening stuff up. You'll get the.
Okay, this is true. But
I just saw Rick. I went golfing with him. So.
All right, there you go. But it's one of those like out of all the teams, he would benefit the most today to just blow his shit up, and just go in the tank. I think Anthony's already made too many moves to do it, and the same with Kyle because he's not. I mean, that's his most valuable player. I mean, we think he's finishing bottom 2. So
yeah, until I trade Jalen Reagor straight up for Watson.
please no, please don't do that. But I mean, yeah, I think that about wraps up Alex's team. I mean. It's gonna, I think so. We're done. We've covered the non-playoff teams. We've broken down every non-playoff team roster. So there's that. We're moving along. I think another solid podcast. What are we at? We're under 2 hours this week, I believe.
No.
Oh shit! Somehow, every week it happens.
We're about right where we were last.
The goal is every single week we have to get longer and longer until we're just podcasting for an entire day.
Oh shit!
Well, once we get to our teams, we're never gonna want to stop talking.
This is true. We're almost there. We're so close. So next week's gonna be a good show. I don't think we'll have as much trade talk. I feel like unless people go crazy again, but. I think next week, maybe we'll get some fan mail. I hope we have to after this podcast.
Yeah, hopefully.
We're gonna cover our first 2 playoff teams. We're gonna cover Nick's team and Tom's team. I believe Tom's gonna be our guest. He'll join us on the show for episode 5 next week. That's all I got. Any final thoughts for today?
No.
We covered everything.
I think we were very fair and balanced to everybody, but. Worst fan.
he didn't help himself by submitting that hate mail.
I know.
During his episode.
He's gonna get some rude tweets. All right, everyone.
Listen, as always, if you're in our league, thanks for listening. We hope you listen to the advice.
If you're not in our league.
If you're not in our league, I hope you're entertained, man, because do you know of any other podcasts that do a podcast specifically about one fantasy football league?
We don't hear about it, so
this is true. But it's just one of those. Listen, I hope random people listen and they get intrigued by this.
How many YouTube views do we have?
It's in the 30s or 40s, right?
Between 4 and 5.
No, dude, it's up there. It's in the double digits for sure. Every time I check.
Jeez, We're getting those. I don't know, and it's my.
So do you remember the old podcast when we would get listens from like Russia?
Fucking everywhere.
It was
That's hilarious. This guy keeps on.
This is the perfect time.
He won't stay put. He won't stay put. So I'll just pick him up so he doesn't just cry on camera because this dog's a crybaby. But yeah, that's it. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed our breakdown of 2 more rosters. We're getting there. We're really stretching this out, our off-season podcast number. Remember that time I wanted to do all this in one episode because I thought it would take
That's
like
a
an hour.
24-hour podcast.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, listen, hit like, hit subscribe, just do us a favor and show
Hit the
that you're
bell so
watching.
you get your notifications.
Oh my God, yeah. Like I said, join us next week and every week for now until we skip weeks when we run out of stuff in the off season.
And if you'd like to submit any ads, let us know. We'll gladly take money to read off ads.
We sure will. So thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.